In this video tutorial, we're going to be covering how to run Docker and Traefik in WSL2. This makes for an awesome dev environment. We're going to be starting with a fresh Windows install, so this video is perfect for beginners. First, we'll install WSL on Windows. Then we'll install Docker inside of WSL. We'll work a little with Docker and Docker Compose to launch a simple web app. Then we'll move that app behind Traefik. And finally, we're going to use a real domain with a real TLS certificate from Let's Encrypt to access our app. All right, so here we have more or less a fresh Windows install, and we're going to get started by installing WSL. I'm going to launch the terminal. I'll do a WSL-s install. Okay, super. So now we're going to reboot. Okay, so now we have WSL installed. Let's install a Linux distribution inside of WSL. So once again, let's open up our terminal. And then we are going to do WSL -- install Ubuntu 2404. Okay, so now we're inside of our Ubuntu installation running inside of WSL. Let's close the terminal. We'll get rid of this window as well, and let's reopen it. And you'll see that after reopening the terminal, if you click down on this little arrow here, you'll see that there's now a Ubuntu 2404 profile. So let's hop into that. Okay, and now let's install Docker. We're going to do an apt-get update to make sure that we have the latest versions. And now we can do apt-get update, apt-get install docker.io. Great. Now, after Docker is installed, we're going to need to add our user to the Docker group in order to use it. To do that, we'll do sudo usermod-ag add group, and we are modifying JDragon user, and we are putting them inside of the Docker group. Oh, I always get the order of these parameters wrong. So AG and the group, and then the user JDragon. Wonderful. And now to update our groups, we're going to need to close the terminal and reopen it. So I'll close the terminal. I'll reopen it. We'll jump back into our Ubuntu profile. If I look at groups now, you'll see that we're part of the Docker group, which means that we'll be able to use Docker. Let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to do a Docker run, and we're going to forward port 3000 from our host to port 3000 in the container. We're going to run node, and we're going to start a shell inside of the node container. Okay, perfect. So now let's make a folder called app. Inside of our folder called app, we're going to write hello world inside of a file called index.html. Then we'll do npx serve, and that's going to serve our index.html. Okay, and let's hop into Edge and make sure that that's working. We're going to go to localhost :3000. And there we see our hello world. That means our Docker is up and running inside of WSL and we're ready to go. So something important to keep in mind is that we created our index.html inside of the container. This isn't good, since after we close our container, the index.html file was created inside the container. It's ephemeral. It's going to be gone. And right now, that index.html, it's a placeholder for our code, so we don't want our code to disappear when it becomes more complex things. What we need to do is we need to create the code outside of the container and then bind mount it inside of the container. So we'll do the same example, but we're going to make our app folder outside of the container. We're going to echo our hello world into the index.html. Then we're going to run our same command, except what we're going to do is we're going to add to it, we're going to add a -v over here. We're going to tell it, hey, take the current folder, pwd, the current path. In that case, it's my home folder /app. And we're going to put that as app inside of the container. So let's do that. And you'll see if I switch to app now, you'll see that index.html exists inside of my container. And if I do npx serve, okay, we'll be able to load up still. Our localhost 3000 should be the same, and it is. And now if we close our container, our container is gone. If we go take a look at that, our container is not running anymore. But we still have our index.html, which is good. We're also doing some stuff outside of our container. We're doing some stuff inside of our container. We're going to simplify things a little bit by doing everything outside of our container. So if we take a look at this previous command, we're going to keep adding a little bit to it. And what we're going to do is we're going to tell it, hey, our working directory inside of our container is /app. That means that we won't have to do cd /app. And what we're going to do, instead of running bin bash, we're going to run our npx serve directly. We're going to do npx. We're going to tell it like yes, so we don't have to press y. And then we are going to do serve. Right now it's installing the serve package. Okay, wonderful. So that's great. We have everything going in one command. However, if we take a look at this command, this is starting to be a pretty long command. And we don't want to type it every time. We might be adding stuff to it. So instead of typing it directly at the command line, we're going to start using Docker Compose to simplify things. Docker Compose is a tool that we can use to orchestrate our containers. So we're going to need the Docker Compose package. So let me just take a look. We're going to want some package, Docker grep compose. Okay, great. So apt cache search Docker grep compose. And this is the package that we want over here, Docker Compose v2. So let's grab that. Let's do sudo apt-get install Docker Compose v2. Yes. Okay, now we should have Docker Compose. Great, we're going to use that in conjunction with a control file, a compose file. So let's take our previous command over here that we've been using. Let's docker compose.yaml, and I don't have a text editor, so let's get one. Okay, super. Let's try that again. Docker compose.yaml. And what we're going to do is we're going to replicate this command over here. So we're going to have some services. Our service name is going to be app. Here's what we want to do. We want the image that we're going to be running to be the node image. We want ports 3000 to 3000. We want some volumes. Our bind mounts, we want dot to be mapped to /app. We want our working dir to be /app. We want our working dir to be /app. And when we start up, we want the command that it runs to be npx -- yes serve. Okay, so we'll quit that. And if we've done that properly, we should be able to do a Docker compose up. Okay, wonderful. So everything should be up. We're now localhost port 3000. And one cool thing that we can do is instead of just doing Docker compose up and having that run in the foreground, we can add a -d and that'll run as a daemon in the background. When it's in the background, we don't see exactly what it does, but we'll use something else that's handy to us. We'll do Docker compose logs -f to follow the logs, and that way we can see when it's ready. And here we are. Okay, so we have our app running at localhost :3000. The next step is that we're going to want to use a real domain for this. Using a real domain is much closer to production, and it eliminates kind of like any surprises, particularly when we're dealing with multiple services. So to do that, we are going to use Traefik. Traefik is it's really an awesome web server that what it does is it maps your requests to Docker containers. So I have prepped a config of Traefik, and we're just going to go and we're going to copy and paste some parts of it because it can be a little bit long. And we're going to start with this. Docker compose.yaml because Traefik itself runs inside of Docker. Let me grab this. We'll go back to our terminal, and we're going to put all of our containers in a folder called Docker. So I'll make a folder called Docker, and then inside of Docker, we're going to make another folder called Traefik. And inside of Traefik, let's edit our Docker compose.yaml. And I'm going to paste that in. Boom. Okay, and we'll see in this Docker compose .yaml, it's similar to the previous one that we've created, maybe a little bit more complex. So one of the things that you'll notice is that we've specified a network here. So the network name is Traefik. That means that the Docker is going to connect all of its containers to that network, and we need that as part of the way that Traefik works. The next thing is that you're going to see that we've got variables inside of our Docker compose.yaml. So Traefik uses these labels for configuration, and inside of these labels, sometimes we can use variables, and that makes it easier for us to reuse snippets. So here we have compose project name. We also have Traefik host name. So I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to just copy, you know what? I'm going to copy this whole line over here. And I'm going to create a .env file. That is where these variables get loaded from. So in our .env file, oops, I'm going to paste that. And then we're going to just simplify this a little bit, or rather edit this. So we've got our compose project name. And we've got our Traefik host name. So compose project name just has to be unique. So we're just going to call it Traefik. Traefik host name. For now, what we're going to do is we're just going to put this on example.com. More on this in a bit. So now we've saved that file. Great. Great. And let's see what is next. The next one that we're going to take is our Traefik.yaml, which is our Traefik configuration. And we're gonna copy that over here, pop in, boom, and Traefik .yaml, and we'll paste that in. Okay, great. So now we should have our files. We should be ready to go. If I do docker compose up d, it should warn me about a missing network. Well, we'll give it a second when it's ready. Okay, and now you see a network traffic declared as external but not found. Docker network create traffic. We only have to do that once. That'll create our network. And then we'll do docker compose upd. And you'll see if we take a look at our docker compose.yaml, we've got ports 80 and 443 that are mapped to our traffic container, 80 being the port for HTTP, and 443 being the port for HTTPS, the secure port. So for now, let's see if we're running anything. And to do that, we can start with curl. We'll curl localhost. And you'll see it's giving us a page not found, and that's great. That is because our traffic host name is set to example.com. So let's do this again. Let's curl localhost, but now let's also pass it the header of host example.com. So now we see moved permanently. And that's better. That means it's hit something. And if we add a -v for verbose, it tells us a little bit more of what's happening. It's trying to redirect us to this example.com/dashboard. Great. And you know what? I'd like to take a look at that in a browser. So what we're going to do is we're going to just map in our Windows host file for now, example.com to be 127.0.0.1, the loopback address. So if I go ping example.com, you'll see it's giving me name or service not found. And what we're going to do is we're going to open up Notepad as an admin. So I'm going to right click. I'm going to go run as an administrator. Open that up. Boom. I'm going to open. And the file that we're editing, I believe, is C, Windows, System 32, I think, drivers, yes, etc. And in here, if we go to all files, we've got a file called hosts. We're going to look at that. And what I want is I want this to go away. And then what I want is that 127.0.0.1 is going to be example.com. So I'm going to save that. Now I'm going to ping example.com, and boom, 127.0.0.1. So what that means is that I should be able to go to a browser, and I should be able to look at example.com. And here we have it. We have our traffic dashboard. So the next step is that we want our app to be at a specific URL and not localhost :3000. So I'm going to do something here. I'm going to change this over here. I'm going to change this to traffic.example.com. And now if I go to reload here, I get a blank page. And if I go to traffic.example.com, I'm going to get just a 404. So to fix that 404, we'll go back into our .env file. And host name, we're going to change this to traffic.example.com. We're going to restart our container here by doing docker compose down and docker compose upd. It's going to shut down and restart our container. Okay, and now if we go to reload traffic.example.com, it loads. Great. So the next step is that we want our app running. And you see, we had put our app just in this folder app over here. Our app in this case really just being our index.html. What we're going to do is we're just going to move it in our Docker folder with the rest of our stuff. We're going to go into the Docker folder over here, go into app, and we're going to need to edit its Docker compose file to have some traffic labels. So great, this is all good, this is all perfect. The other thing that we will do is we're just going to copy a snippet from our traffic configuration, docker compose.yaml. We'll take these labels over here, our traffic labels. put them in here. Perfect. And same compose project name, great. Traefik hostname, great. The only difference is that over here we're going to change this to port 3000 as the port inside the container. We're no longer going to need to forward any ports to the host, so we're going to turn those off. So that looks good. And like we did before, we're going to edit an environment file, and that environment file is going to have compose project name. It's going to be, I'm just going to call this my app, and Traefik hostname myapp.example.com. So we'll save that over here, and then we're going to shut down this container, and we're going to bring it back up. Okay, and now, of course, I won't be able to get to myapp.example.com just yet. myapp.example.com. Okay, we won't be able to get there just yet, but we will add the line to our host file. You can't add wildcards to the host file, so we have to add each subdomain separately. But we'll be using a real domain eventually, and that way we'll be able to add wildcards. So now we've saved that. Can we reload this? No, we cannot. All right, let's see what went wrong. So first off, we've got our end file, Traefik hostname, myapp.example.com. Great. I'm going to do a docker compose logs, see what's going on inside of our container. Okay, you're accepting at port 3000. Aha, yes. So the gateway timeout, it's because we haven't put this on the correct network. So let's go back into our docker compose.yaml, and let's take a look at our Traefik config, the working one. So that's docker Traefik docker compose.yaml, and you'll see that this is on a network called Traefik, which we need for it to be able to reach it. So we'll put that on the Traefik network, and once again, docker compose down and docker compose up D. All right. And there we go. Our hello world. Great. So this is more or less how we set up our apps with different subdomains. And now let's move on to using a real domain. Let's map our real domain. Over here, I've got more or less a plain, like this is the default Namecheap records when you first set up a domain page. Depending on who you're using, this page is going to look slightly different, but it's still the same idea. What we're going to do is we're going to add two records, two A records. So we're going to add an A record for the domain without a subdomain, the root domain. So for the root domain, and we're going to just put this to 127.0.0.1. Host, we're going to use @ to indicate the root domain. Some registrars you leave it blank. Then we're going to add another record and 127.0.0.1, and this one we're going to put a wildcard, so this will be every subdomain. Okay, great. Okay. Yeah, so sometimes this can take a bit. Dig jdragon dot. Okay. And can I dig at? Yes. So I specified here Google's DNS server. Just sometimes it's a little bit they update a little bit faster. So jdragon.dev gives me 127.0.0.1, and hello.jdragon.dev also gives me 127.0.0.1. And what we want is we want to hit up myapp.jdragon.dev and have it give us 127.0.0.1. Okay, perfect. So that's propagated. That's ready to go. And now it should be as simple as updating our environment file. myapp.example.com. We're going to change that to jdragon.dev, and we are going to bring down our container and bring it back up. Okay, and now instead of having myapp.example.com, we're going to put myapp.jdragon.dev. All right, and here's the thing. .dev is a secure domain. It's a secure namespace. So what we're seeing here is that Edge is trying to kind of like force us to use SSL for it, which is good. That's about to be our next step. But just so that we can see it without SSL, if we were using a .com or something that doesn't force secure, we'd be seeing it now. So let's just take a look at curl myapp.jdragon.dev, and we see our hello world. So that's good. That's working. And let's move on to just putting in the SSL. We're going to use Let's Encrypt to generate an SSL certificate for us. So I'm going to apt-get install Let's Encrypt. And I'm just going to copy and paste a line that I have ready to go, which is here: certbot, cert only, manual, prefer challenge DNS. We're using DNS so that we can get the wildcard, debug challenges that'll let us edit the records, and we're setting our domains to be jdragon.dev, the root domain, and wildcard.jdragon.dev. It's an interesting thing about DNS. The wildcard does not cover the root domain. They're two different things, so we need to have both names. So let's run that. Oh, of course, yes, we've got to run this as root, so we'll put a sudo in front of it. And I'm going to just put an email address here at jdragon@outlook.com. I've read the terms of service. No, please don't email me. And great. So now we need to put these records in and to make sure that they're deployed. So we'll copy this Acme challenge here. We'll go back to our record page. And in this case, what it's asking us to do is to deploy a TXT record for this host. And the value is whatever this string was over here. So let's go here. So that's one of two, because they're going to give us another one. One of them again covers the root domain, and the other one covers the wildcard. Okay, so now those are there. They might take a second to propagate. We're going to look at them the same way that we looked at DA records to see if they were propagated. Now, we're not going to do it from this terminal, because if I hit enter or if I continue, it's going to check that the records are there. And if the records are not there, we're going to have to start over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up a new shell here. Let's check if our records are deployed. We're going to do dig type txt that we're checking. We're going to look at Acme challenge .jdragon.dev, and here we have our TXT records. So we have two of them. They should match the ones that we've deployed. We're going to press enter. We're going to press enter again, and this should issue us the certificates. Okay, great. So you'll see we have our certificates now. They're in etc, Let's Encrypt, live, jdragon.dev, fullchain.pem, and privkey.pem. Okay, so we are now going to load those into Traefik, and let's go back to our Traefik example configuration. And you'll see here we have our dynamic.yaml. That's the file that we're going to use to load the certificate. So this is just a little stub. Okay, so I'll kind of want to keep this open to copy and paste. So let's bring up a new tab, and let's go into our Docker folder. Let's go into our Traefik folder, and now we will edit our dynamic.yaml. Okay, we'll paste that in. We'll go back to the previous tab. We'll get our full chain over here. Right. We'll get our priv key. Over here. Okay, now this file, a couple of things to point out. The first one being that these are paths inside of our container. This is a bind bound. So if we look at our docker compose.yaml, you'll see that we're going to mount etc let's encrypt outside of our container to etc let's encrypt inside of our container. So that's how those files are going to get to our container, for our Traefik container for it to use. The next thing is that we're going to edit our Traefik config, and we're going to tell it to use this dynamic.yaml as one of the providers. Then we will quit. We will bring down our Traefik container, docker compose down, and docker compose up -d. Okay, and now we're going to go see. We're going to go check out what's happening. Aha! Progress. So you'll see, okay, we're getting a 404 page now, but if we take a look, we have our certificate being registered. We're going to need to tell our container, our app container, to use TLS, Transport Layer Security. So let's go in here. Let's add just this line that I'm copying and pasting over here. Compose project name, TLS is equal to true. Great. Let's quit that, and let's bring down our container. Docker compose down and docker compose up -d. Okay, hello world. There we go. So now we've got our app ready. We're using a real domain, and we've got a certificate. We're ready for the next steps.